Hey everybody, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder. Just in case you had forgotten, because it has been quite some time since my last video, which was my Metal Tag 2023. Probably the longest break I've had making videos in, what, 7 or 8 years that I have been doing this. I don't even have those usual excuses that people have about either bad health or too busy or job or whatever you. I just haven't got around to doing one, if I'm perfectly honest. But this sabbatical, or as I very humorously crack myself up by saying this sabbatical, is now at an end. Well, it's at an end for now. We'll see whether it continues or not in the coming weeks. I hope so, because I've kind of, now I'm sitting here, I kind of miss it to some degree, talking to myself and also looking at myself on the screen opposite me. I've missed you. And you guys as well, don't get me wrong. So, as the title suggests, this is a very small Iron Maiden collection video update video. I'll get back in the swing of it. But it is also a massive collection update video, because I have got a couple of absolute corkers. Certainly for me, one of the records was a grail. It was my biggest Iron Maiden grail. And if you've watched other Iron Maiden videos I've done, you could probably guess what that is already. But before that, there's a couple of I was going to say non-music related, but they are music related because they're related to Maiden. Non-media, but one's a book. Anyway, Iron Maiden in the UK recently released a couple of sets of stamps, postage stamps. These are, I believe, the last postage stamps in the UK that will ever be printed with the late Queen's head-ons. That's rather nice. I first came across that Maiden had, and the post office had released these by just a news article popped up about how people were completely outraged. There's two sets that to have such demonic images on next to the late Queen's head, which I thought was quite hilarious. So there's two sets. The first one is Eddie's Through the Years. Obviously, we've got the 1980 Iron Maiden Eddie there, the Trooper, Aces High Eddie, and the more recent Senjutsu. Now, these are all, I mean, you could use them as stamps, but obviously I'm not going to break up the display, but they come in these nice little presentation packs with a nice little Eddie Through the Ages right up on the back. And the second set, which is of 8 stamps, has just got some live shots through the ages. I'll say through the ages. It's really from, there's nothing from the Paul Di'Anno or Blaze Bayley eras, which you wouldn't be surprised to hear at all, would you? But there's from 83, 88, 2001, 2010, 2008, 2018. So a selection of live shots. And again, in a similar sort of presentation pack. This one's a little bit more of a, what's that, Rock in Rio backing to that one, and a more of a gatefold, a bit more of a write-up of the history of the band. Oh, in fact, it opens up that way, doesn't it? Yes, so nice little write-up, nice little presentation back. I'm not a stamp collector by any means, but I could not resist picking up these two, being a big Iron Maiden fan. Yeah, that's really nice. Next up is a book, but it's not really a book about Maiden. I had it for my birthday. It was my birthday a month or so ago, and I know I missed my annual birthday haul, and it was way over a month ago, so no need for any belated messages or anything in the comments. But I saw this, I stuck it on my list, and my kids bought it for me. So this is a fictional book called The First Night of Live After Death by Mike Maguire. Came out, when did it come out actually? I think it's fairly new. I recently just saw it pop up on Amazon. 2021. It's basically a story about, I think it's 4 American kids. The cassette version, although not this version, they've got the double cassette version, which I guess has now become a grail, because I've remembered that I used to have that back in the day, and I want it again. But this is the single 100-minute long tape version that I had that I'm using for illustrative purposes, and it's basically them cruising around in their car, and it just goes through pretty much song by song, and there's a little bit of a narrative around it, and the story's okay. It's it was nostalgic in terms of maybe some of the conversations the kids are having, but because they were American kids cruising around, I didn't really relate to it at all. It certainly wasn't anything like my experience of listening to it when I was about would have been probably a bit younger than them at the time when it came out. This was what, 85, so I'd have been about 14 when the album actually came out, and they're also old enough to drive. So what's that in the US? 16, 17. But there we go. It sort of talks about the fact that they're metalheads and in their school, and school sucks and stuff. So in terms of them cruising around, going for beers and driving out in parking lots and stuff, didn't really relate to it at all, but I just thought it was kind of a nice little story. Read it in a couple of hours, but because it was Maiden related, I thought I'd had to have a read of it, and it was a fun read. But now let's move on to the collection update. So towards the end of last year, I did a contest entry for Nathan Metal Down Under, and one of the questions was, what album would you like to see into the tree? And I said, I did say a US version of the debut Iron Maiden album, because I've got lots of versions of that album, and that was kind of the next one that I needed in the collection. And totally unexpected, a guy called Ed reached out to me. Now I know he knows Darcy quite well, and he got in touch with me through Darcy originally. And bearing in mind, I didn't know this guy at the time. I've got to know him a little bit better now. I chat a little bit offline. He said that he had a US version. I still feel kind of when I hold it. A US version of the Iron Maiden debut album, and he wanted me to have it. And I believe this was, I think he had a couple of copies, but this is one that he had as when he was younger as well. And I could believe it. I was like, yeah, I would love to have it. That would be absolutely fantastic. He told me it was a little bit damaged, and you probably can't even see it from there. It's kind of it's superficial, but there's a bit of a cover mark. There's been a mark on the album, and his I know that teenage self did a little bit of a masking job on it, but I don't care about that. It's a grail ticked off the list. It is an OG US on Harvest. Now that's not a label we see much in the UK of Iron Maiden. Absolutely blown away. I mean, the generosity of some people here, I just cannot get over it. I was also shows what a lucky spoiled boy I've been. So this is my UK OG. A little note here is from a guy called Ken, who sent me that a couple of years ago now, I think. So to get two original Iron Maidens, one US and one UK, albeit a few years apart, absolutely fantastic. So I thought I would do a little comparison of the two. So obviously on the front covers, on the UK one, it's actually a little bit lighter. The darks are darker on the US one. That's one I think I noticed. But that's the only real difference on the front cover, probably just down to printing preferences. The clear and obvious mistake on the US version, again, you can see it's kind of darker here than the UK version in the printing, is the track listing is obviously slightly different, and there's a slightly different sizing and emphasis on the lineups and the credits. But having Sanctuary on side B, you all know that's a massive pet peeve of mine. It's an extra track that shouldn't be there, a track that does not belong. But it does make the US copy rather unique, and I'm absolutely delighted to have it as a result. Other major thing for me is having a barcode as well. Consider this was 1980. Barcodes didn't exist in the UK at that time on anything. We didn't have the means to process them at all, and yet there we have 1980, a barcode on there. Other slight differences as well, say mainly in colour, but in terms of the credits at the bottom as well. And the photos don't have the white border around them. I hadn't spotted that before. And just a little bit darker. The record is in pretty good condition. Ed did say that, you know, it was beat up, and there are superficial scratches on it. It's in well loved condition, but I don't care about that. I have played it. There's a certain amount of noise in the quiet areas, but nothing to detract the joy of listening to it. The only thing that detracts the joy of listening to the US version is that Sanctuary pops up halfway through side B, and it's a fantastic song, but you know, it shouldn't be there. But also, Ken sent me the UK version. Ed said he had a copy of Killers as well, and would I like it? But he said it's really bashed up, and he sent me some photos, and it did look pretty bashed up. And I said, you know what? No, I'm okay. Just sending me that first one is good enough. But no, Ed would not take no for an answer, and in the same package arrived Iron Maiden Killers again. It's a US version, but this time it doesn't have the Harvest label. It has the sort of the custom Iron Maiden label in the middle as well. A little bit of front wear, a little bit of ring wear, but you know, he did tell me, and he also sent me a little crease as well, but again, well loved condition. And I'm not going to complain about the condition of it, honestly. The fact that he sent it on, I'm kind of glad he did, and I'm glad he didn't listen to me. It did have a big seam split on here, which I'm in the process of fixing. It's coming along nicely. I can cover that up, but it wasn't as bad as the photos made it look. So I'm so pleased he ignored me and sent it on. Again, let's do a quick comparison. This is my UK original on the on my left. Not too much difference in the colour this time around. Certainly on the back, on the front, and on the back. Again, not nothing too much different. Obviously, the credits are slightly different. There's different number. We've got the Harvest logo in the bottom right, and the ST1241 number here, whereas we've got EMC 3357 for you number geeks, and EMI in the bottom right. And yeah, there's an extra track on here as well, Twilight Zone, which isn't on the UK version. Now, I think this is the first US version of Killers that I've got that has got Twilight Zone on it, so it's another song that doesn't belong, and another reason for me to get all het up and ranty. But also at the same time, Ed, you did me a solid there, mate. This is absolutely superb stuff. To go from just one day thinking, you know, I had this down as a grail because I didn't think I would ever find one, certainly on the UK, and I was never going to buy it for import. I know it's probably readily available in the US, but not in the UK. But to end up with you know, the two US pressings to add to the collection, absolutely blown away. Now, I've had these for a number of weeks now, and I've been sort of telling Ed to apologise for not getting around to showing them off on a camera, but I figured if I'm going to come back on, he would be one of the first people that I would recognise for his fantastic generosity in helping me maintain my Iron Maiden collection. So what is next in the Grail list for that? I really don't know. There's nothing. For the first time, I'm actually not hankering for any particular pressing or version of the debut album. That may well change in one day, but having read the first night of Live After Death recently, I am going to start looking out for the 2 cassette version of Live After Death. It never stops, does it? Thanks again, Ed. Thanks again, Ken, for, you know, again for a couple of years ago. You guys are both absolutely superb, and I very much appreciate you sending me those on. Let me know what you think in the comments. It'd be great to catch up with you guys again. I know I've been watching a few videos, but I've also been kind of taking a little bit of a backseat recently, and fingers crossed you may see me again. Thanks for watching.